Hi everyone, happy Monday.
After a busy local election on Friday.
Yeah,
you
busy
still you
weekend.
still sane, Hamish?
Still basically keeping it together, yeah. I think we're now in the aftermath period where they'll be hashing out deals. So we'll see what comes of that. Other than the ones that have been won outright, Western
Yeah,
Berkshire.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it'll be, we'll actually start to see who is actually going to form power sharing agreements or minority administrations, like you say, outside the ones that were not won by a majority, which was only obviously the independent ones in the islands, but also the SNP in Dundee and Labour in Western Bartonshire. So should be an interesting week. There'll be lots coming in on that, I think.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, it's Steph and Hamish here on this Monday morning. So we're going to talk through a few stories that are going on at the National at the moment. We've got the first one was Kirsten Oswald just spoke yesterday. This is on our front page about Indy Ref 2. She basically said we're sort of cranking up for an independence referendum. And it's not up to the Tories to decide whether we get one or not. What did you make of it, Hamish? I mean, this is kind of stuff we've been hearing for a long, long time now, that we're going to get an independence referendum, but it seems like the SNP might, go for that one big push now, given that they did well in the council elections. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be really glad to hear that they're talking about pushing the case for independence and a second referendum. I think a lot of people are still quite sceptical about this timeline that they've set out for it, having it by the end of 2023. And Kirsten Oswald says there is correct. It's not for Scotland. It's not for the Tories in Westminster to decide Scotland's future, but it is unfortunately for the UK government to grant the powers to hold a second referendum, and that could very well end up in court. And Nicola Sturgeon said that she doesn't want it to end up in court. But then they are also making the point that it would be undemocratic for them, and they're kind of using this line quite a lot of not democratically tenable for them to keep denying a second referendum. And you might think Boris Johnson, master of political survival, might just take a gamble on it, grant a second referendum, and kind of shore himself up in the chaos that might ensue. So we could. I mean, yeah, I think the fundamental point is that for a lot of people, they've had 2 years of COVID delay and stuff, and quite rightly, it's not been the top priority for 2 years. But I think that there are a lot of people who've been campaigning for independence for a very, very long time, and who, for that sort of delay, has been incredibly frustrating, especially when Boris Johnson's been in charge. The case sort of makes itself with him. So I think that starting to see people like Kirsten Oswald, like Ian Blackford, gave pretty full-throated support for Indy Ref 2 as soon as possible as well over the weekend, or on Friday maybe. Yeah, I think that people now will be looking forward to this conversation coming back to the fore, and regardless of whether or not that ends up in court, or if it is, or if a second referendum is granted, I think people will be cheered to see that it's back in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a poll yesterday, wasn't there? A panel-based poll done for the Times, I think, suggesting that most people are in favour of an independence referendum at some point in the next 5 years. I mean, about a quarter of people were in favour of this sort of timeline that Nicola Sturgeon set out. So Oswald's saying there is an appetite for it, which it does seem that there is. So other things that we had going on yesterday and into this week now is as we said, council administrations being formed.
Yeah.
You had some news on this, Hamish, yesterday with North Lanarkshire, didn't you?
Yeah, North Lanarkshire, Jordan Linden, who's the SNP group leader there, is saying that he's sort of in discussions with other parties. Didn't go into a huge amount of specifics, but I think it's they've got a Green councillor in the SNP group there, and some independents that they feel like they can work with. They're just shy of a majority on their own, so they don't actually need to reach out. They don't actually need to get the numbers up that high to get a majority on it. So it looks quite likely that North Lanarkshire, which was previously a kind of Tory Labour council, and is still, I think, very split on the constitutional question. You saw a British Unionist Party councillor get elected there, so there is obviously quite a sizable Unionist vote in North Lanarkshire. So for the SNP to get in there, I think they would consider that to be quite a coup for them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the Lib Dems have ruled out a deal with the SNP in Edinburgh. Is that right?
Yeah, so they're the third biggest party in Edinburgh after the Tories' vote sort of collapsed in the capital. So they do have a bit of a role to play there. They wouldn't have had, I don't think, the numbers. I don't have the numbers to hand, but I don't think they would have had the numbers to get them over the line either which way. So the SNP there, who are the biggest group still, will be looking to speak to the Greens, I think, but unlikely Labour, because anyone that I spoke to yesterday, Labour haven't been in touch, and I think they've sort of ruled themselves out of power in a lot of councils.
Yeah, it's a strange situation they've put themselves in. Ruling out formal coalitions as Anna Sowell phrased it.
Do you think that I was thinking about this morning, and maybe it is that for a long time, the Labour Party in Scotland had this arrogance of, well, we are basically the party of Scotland, and people will just be glad to see us in power any which way. But given the sort of toxic publicity around these Better Together councils in Aberdeen in particular, do you think that they're now coming to a stage where actually being in opposition can work better for them? Do you think that that's the sort of strategy angle for it?
Yeah, I can understand that. I have heard people sort of say on councils that they felt that Labour have been arrogant at times and comfortable in the past because they would have had a number of administrations in Scotland, I would imagine. And they got comfortable and didn't were complacent about things in some places. So I think you're right in that that there probably was a bit of that.
And plus being in opposition is a much easier ride, isn't it? Because you don't have to
make policies in government.
You can kind of snipe from the sidelines and shore up more support. So it's maybe not. I mean, I know it looks a bit mental, maybe at first glance, but I think there's maybe method in the madness of saying, actually, if we can snipe from the sidelines for 5 years.
And I think it's good to have a strong opposition on councils. I think that if to just to make sure that the administration are held to account. I think good administrations will tell you that they want a strong opposition because that makes them better as well. So
we'll see how it all plays out. I think there'll be a lot of news on that today and over the next few days.
Absolutely. So just to some fun things to finish off. We had the announcement that Ncuti Gatwa was made the next Doctor Who. I don't know what happened to the days of us getting a surprise at, in a Doctor Who episode. Just the Doctor regenerating. I don't know what's happened to that because they announced it.
Is that what used to happen? You used to just it would just be like, oh right, okay, now it's David Tennant.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was great. They should just keep doing that. But it's great that he's become the next Doctor. He's the fourth Scot to play the role after Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, and Sylvester McCoy. Is that right? Sylvester McCoy,
yeah. He was the one with the big hat, I think.
Yeah.
I've not seen the older episodes, and I sort of stopped watching that with David Tennant.
Do you think he'll be a good Doctor? I mean, I absolutely loved him in Sex Education. He's a really wacky guy. Yeah, I can see him suiting the role quite well.
Yeah, I think if he brings the level of camp from Sex Education that Eric has, then I think they could really bring people back around to watching Doctor. I've not seen it in ages, and I feel like a lot of people have kind of fallen away from it as a show. But maybe having having a Scot like and Shutigawa, who's just like the most fun person to watch on screen. I think maybe that could bring people back. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll be watching it.
He is. He had a really cool outfit at the BAFTAs last night. He doesn't hold back on anything. Really doesn't. And
yeah, you were watching the BAFTAs last night.
I was. Yeah, I did tune in. I just finished up my shift, and it was on straight away. So it was quite politically charged, I would say. There was a lot of award winners who spoke about Channel 4. It started quite sort of, Channel 4 is great. We wouldn't.
Is it broadcast on Channel 4?
Sorry?
Is it broadcast on Channel 4?
The BAFTAs, no, it's a BBC broadcast. But there was a lot of people sort of saying, it's great. I wouldn't be here without it, sort of thing. It gives us great opportunities. And then as more and more people did that, people seemed to get more and more confident and actually started calling out the government for the planned privatisation of Channel 4. One of the best speeches was probably Gogglebox, the boss behind that, Stephen Lambert, basically said, people, Channel 4 took a risk on Gogglebox, really, and they believed in it and they stuck with it, and here we are, years later, that's been on the TV. It's so popular for years. So there was a lot of that. And there was also Dennis Kelly, the writer behind Together, the COVID drama, which had James McAvoy in it. He read out a letter to the government about basically about Partygate, and said that the UK government had been negligent and ignored people, and lied to people who had lost loved ones. So that was quite bold as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you just think that that's such a bold moment to happen on TV, and there definitely is. I think probably like the chat of Channel 4 would spurred people on to have been more bold about what they were talking about, right? Like that. The plans to privatise it have obviously upset a lot of people that work in that industry and know it better than Nadine Dorries obviously does, and can just see it for, not being a particularly well thought out plan just because Channel 4 News aren't very nice to the Tories.
Yeah, and I think Channel 4 won a number of awards last night as well, so that was probably telling as well. And of course, Lorraine Kelly sent a special hello to Boris Johnson at one point as well, after he appeared to not know who she was during a GMB interview last week.
Yeah, his excuse for that was that he had food poisoning. But if you've ever had food poisoning, you can't even sit up straight. It's not.
No.
You can't go on ITV, Good Morning Britain, and
certainly not.
Waffle is not. Yeah, food poisoning doesn't lead to you forgetting who Lorraine Kelly is.
No, that's not a symptom I've ever had. And obviously, congratulations to Billy Connolly as well, because he won the fellowship, which is well deserved for his
absolutely,
bit of a national hero. So congrats to him.
But so there's not really huge amounts going on in terms of hard politics today. Holyrood isn't sitting. Westminster isn't sitting until tomorrow. It's back. We've got the Queen's speech tomorrow, I believe, 10th.
Yep.
Right? So we've got that to look forward to. When the UK government brings forward its legislative agenda for the next year. So the calm before the storm today, maybe. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes up in that. I think lots of people will be having their say, I think.
And could see a bill to privatise Channel 4, but maybe part of that, but who knows? But
I think that's it for now, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you tomorrow. I'm not sure who it is tomorrow. I don't think it's me, but a couple of reporters will be joining you anyway.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Steph.
Yeah, and you, Hamish.